Good afternoon. My name is Mileyka Burgos-Flores. I am the Executive Director of the Allapattah Collaborative CDC, a nonprofit organization focused on implementing placemaking techniques to foster identity, supporting wealth building strategies for marginalized communities of color, and advocating for policies and procedures that support equitable, comprehensive, and sustainable community development. Our goal is to protect and strengthen the identity, charm, and cultural appeal of Allapattah neighborhood, as well as other ethnic communities in Miami, by ensuring that long-term residents are able to thrive in an environment that has been plagued with disparities, misinformation, and disinvestment. In recent years, we have worked with the community to develop a strategic plan to mitigate the rapid displacement and improve the quality of life of long-term residents. Our strategies focus on collaboration, education, and coaching to empower individuals, micro businesses, and the community. Monday Night Talks, the intersection of small business and health, is a five-part series where we invite you to join us every Monday in the month of November for a 1 hour conversation about the impacts of COVID-19 on small business owners and their customers. In these sessions, we'll discuss topics that bridge the intersection of business and social determinants of health. We'll explore how the effects of COVID-19 have magnified socioeconomic issues that ultimately hurt businesses on several fronts. Monday Night Talks aims to create an informed conversation about the weekly topic and provide a collective way forward as we continue learning how to mitigate challenges in our post COVID-19 society. We hope these conversations improve engagement, knowledge, and strengthen relationships among stakeholders. It is an honor to host this virtual event today. I am delighted to introduce to you my esteemed colleague and co-host, Sheyla Pierre, principal at SocialBridge Consulting. Sheyla?
Thank you, Malaika, and greetings, everyone. My name is Sheyla Pierre. As mentioned, I'm the principal consultant at SocialBridge. My background is in social work and business, and this motivated me to start work in bridging the gap between profit and purpose. We do this by partnering with clients to establish strong and sound corporate social responsibility strategies. And our work aims to solve social problems through innovative solutions, strategy, and thought partnership. During our conversations, I will share how social responsibility aligns with staying open during COVID-19 and how this ultimately benefits you as a business. I'm excited to have Catherine Busato join this conversation today. Catherine has been a faculty member at Florida International University's Herbert Wertheim College of Medicine and Society since 2017. She works in the Department of Humanities, Health, and Society. Her focus is in household-centered care, and she works in underserved communities in Miami-Dade County. For this conversation, Catherine will be our health expert and share information about COVID-19 and how to stay open for your small business. I'm also happy to have Sherly, Granados health ambassador at the Allapattah Collaborative CDC Stay Healthy Allapattah initiative, join this conversation as well. Malaika?
Yes, it's going to be an amazing conversation. Very excited to hear Shirley and Ms. Busato. So, the COVID-19 pandemic has stormed in and it continues to affect our everyday lives. 7 months into this crisis, many businesses have been forced to close. Some are hanging by a thread, while others are doing what they can to survive this new reality. Today, we will dive into the implications, challenges, and solutions to keep our businesses open and our clients and employees safe during COVID-19 pandemic. Our objective is to gain a better understanding of the intersection of business and health, learning about resources available to small businesses, gaining tools to navigate staying open during COVID-19, and sharing information about the Allapattah Collaborative CDC's program Stay Healthy Allapattah, supported by the Health Foundation. So let's get started, Sheila.
Thank you, Malaika. Let's go to the first slide. So as Malaika mentioned, this is Monday Night Talks, and we're going to be having a conversation about the intersection of business and health. So for small business owners, we're really going to talk about how social responsibility truly has an impact on your business, your employees, and your community. Next slide. Next slide. Thank you. So the intersection of business and health. So when we think about that, we understand that the health of a business is truly linked to its workforce, right? So we think about how your employees are navigating through COVID-19. This relates to them being tested. This relates to their family members as well, right? This also has to do with the community where the business resides, right? Oftentimes, when we think about some of the issues that communities are facing, this is something that small businesses should also be a part of as well, right? The health of a company is really linked to its workforce and the communities, as I mentioned, right? And so when we think about social engagement, corporate engagement in addressing these underlying social determinants of health, this is important because this has a true benefit and impact on the business as well. And so some of the things that we wanted to highlight was some of the business benefits. So you have less sick days as well. You have an improved productivity if your workforce is healthier. Less money spent on health insurance, right? Which is a huge cost burden when you think about what small businesses are spending for their health insurance for their employees. More cooperation and transform your company culture. We see with a lot of businesses, whether they're small or larger businesses, how a business interacts with the community that they're surrounded around, that they're surrounded in, makes an impact. And so your employees see that. So they see how you're showing up for your community. This also relates to fewer workplace incidents. So those are some of the examples about the business benefits. When we think about the community benefits, right, between the intersection of business and health, we think about that community involvement increases your brand awareness. We especially see that now during COVID-19. And also looking at some of the other things facing society today. Really, consumers want to do business with, companies that are doing some type of social good. This gives you a stronger community relationship, and it really sets you apart from your competitors. So during COVID-19, small businesses really have to think about ways to stay competitive. And so engaging with the community is one of them. The last thing is network and creating connections with other local businesses. This is a great opportunity to share and leverage resources with other small businesses that may be in your same community. Next slide. Okay, so resources, tips, and tools to navigate staying open. So as I mentioned before, innovation is truly at the corner of really staying open during COVID-19 for small businesses. So what does innovation really, or what do we mean when we say staying innovative, right? It's meaning looking at doing things differently, right? How can you start rethinking some of the day-to-day operations? How can you reach your customers possibly in a different way that you haven't thought before? And when we think about innovation, this is not just something that owners can think about themselves. This is also something that you can discuss with your employees as well. This helps to create initiative. This helps to create new ideas, right? We've also have found, research has found that, small businesses and other size businesses have found new ways to deliver their services, right? So we see this is an opportunity to leverage technology platforms or even looking at social media as a way to reach new clients as well. So this is another opportunity to engage with your workforce, your employees. Is there opportunities for a new skill? We see a number of resources, whether it's on online platforms like LinkedIn Learning, which is a free resource and tool, YouTube, or other organizations that are providing these capacity building resources so that you could train your workforce, right? For example, let's say you had a particular employee that maybe was trained on a specific responsibility. This is an opportunity to have some cross training, right? This is an opportunity to also engage in having employees, maybe a new skill like social media. So really start to think about your employees in this effort. It's not just the responsibility of the business owners themselves. And so the CDC has provided some really good information about how to prepare small businesses and employees with resources to staying open during the coronavirus, right? So really, identifying. So one of the examples is identifying a workplace coordinator, right? And this person is responsible for like the COVID issues and their impact at the workplace. There's other resources that you can also look at within your organization. You also have to take a look at your policies and your procedures, standard operating procedures, as it's called in some companies, to see if with COVID-19, what are some of the things that you need to be looking at within your procedures at your business, right? This is a time where everyone, business owners, management, employees, or engaging your workforce are coming together to really look at policies and strategies and how to stay open during COVID-19. So we'd love to hear more about what the Allapattah CDC, the Allapattah Collaborative CDC, is doing. And I'd love to hear from Sherly Granado, the health ambassador, to hear more about what's being done through the Stay Healthy Allapattah initiative. Sherly? Sherly, we can't hear you.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you. All right, hi everyone. My name is Sherly Granado. I'm the health ambassador for the Allapattah Collaborative initiative, Stay Healthy, Stay Open Allapattah. Now, through this initiative, we've focused in the area of Allapattah, and we are focused on providing them resources, education, as well as requiring and encouraging testing. So our resources span everything from hand sanitizer stations and hand sanitizers to even new technology for frequently touched surfaces, where somebody can go ahead and grab the door handle and not even have to worry about contracting any of these COVID particles because it's a self-cleaning surface. Talk about new technology, huh? Yeah. Other than that, we are also aiming to educate the community through the businesses themselves. So we aim to have the owners and the employees become ambassadors to the correct information about COVID-19, because there is that maturity about what is COVID, what are the effects, how does it work? And by educating the business who have that tie to the community, they're more likely to be open to that information. And last but not least, we are requiring employees, business owners to get tested, right? With an increase in cases as we move on to phase 3, it's important that everybody is testing as often as possible, especially if you're in an area with a lot of interaction with customers, right? And we are also encouraging testing of customers as well. So that's not a requirement for them, but there is an incentive if they go to the business, pick up a little safety kit and go and get tested as well. Thank you. Cue next slide. So although our initiative has set forth a path, an idea as to how the business owners we're working with can tackle COVID-19, there have been a few challenges throughout. So everything from, say, enforcing the protocol, either from employees or customers that come into a business. From personal experiences, there has been one or more business owners that have commented that people are not comfortable with wearing masks, where it's one of the most basic and easiest ways to protect oneself and others as well. There's also that change in public sentiment as new information is put out, as there's a change in power as well. So taking into account how the public feels about COVID-19 impacts who we can reach, who we can work with as well. And last but not least, with the Florida's government policies. Now, in the last 2-3 months, we've gone on from phase 2 to phase 3, aka more businesses are open, and they are also open to even more influx of customers, aka we have more interaction. You can't really social distance that well with a full business, right? Which is where we go back to enforcing protocols, not just the personal safety equipment, but also those recommended by the CDC. Now, although our focus is on working with and through the business owners, their employees, and the business themselves, we do aim to reach out to the community in various aspects. Everything from teaching them how to isolate at home if by one way or another they end up contracting COVID-19. There is a way that you can prevent your loved ones from getting COVID-19 as well. That includes staying within one room within your home. Nobody comes in, nobody goes out, and also wearing a mask at all times. You especially want to do that if you have somebody in your home who is susceptible or at a higher risk to COVID-19. All right, thank you so much. And I believe I'm moving on to Malaika with our partner.
Yeah, I love everything that you shared, Shirley. I think that businesses in Allapattah are very lucky to have you, honestly. So Sheyla, I'll tell you, that initiative came out because we connected with the Health Foundation of South Florida, and we said, this search team from Miami-Dade, which is very nice that they're coming out and giving this information, because Allapattah was the epicenter of COVID earlier this summer. So we said, you know what, sometimes we know our community. Our community doesn't trust just any Joe walking by. They trust a person that serves them their cafecito. They trust the person that cuts their hair. They trust the hairdresser. They trust the guy in the bodega. So we wanted to make sure that these icons of the community, the people that they see every day in the supermarket, in the bodega, in the hair salon, in the barbershop, you name it, location, basically the places they frequent every day, they should be the people that have this information, because they are the ones that feel comfortable saying, hey man, I haven't been able to find a job. I'm still waiting for my unemployment check. My family got COVID. My wife got COVID. We get that. They are able to hear that information. So they become the person that can say, hey, you know what about I give you this safety kit and you go get tested, or this is what happens these are the long-term effects of COVID, because many times people think that COVID is like, you get it, you get a cold and you get sick a little bit and then you make it, or you don't make it if you're, and it's really not that. It's beyond that. We know small businesses who have been very affected by COVID. I mean, they had to close when the mandate happened, and then they opened up, got infected, and had to close over for almost a month because they needed to get healthy again in order to reopen their operations. So this is very, very challenging for the small businesses. And what we're trying to do is make sure that they are able to, number one, keep themselves and their employees safe, and number two, keep their clients safe as well.
Thank you, Malaika. That's great information, and it's really speaking to the importance of small businesses, right? Not only are they providing a service or a product in these communities, but we recognize that they're also like stakeholders, right? And they truly are the leaders in driving change in communities. So it just makes sense that we're here and providing resources and information to a much needed a group, which are small businesses during these difficult times. Okay.
Yes,
And
there's
so we
definitely
want
third spaces. Like I feel that these are the third spaces. You have your home, you have your job, and then you have this like third space where you hang out. And I think that our small businesses become that.
Thank you, Malaika. And so we want to cue the next slide and really get some information from our health expert. And so okay, so we can actually talk about some of the key takeaways here, right? And so as small business owners, what are some of the things that we want you to leave with or to consider, right? And so the first being that, we want to remind you that the health of a business is linked to its workforce, right? So really making sure that your employees are healthy, whether that's through the health insurance program, through that you're providing as an employer, or even through like the COVID testing, making sure that your employees are staying healthy. And there's also different community-based initiatives that exist if you need to also refer your employees to resources as well. For example, in Miami, we know about the federally qualified health centers, the FQHCs, that are located in the different zip codes that you can also refer employees to as well. So another thing we want to think about is a stronger role for business in population health improvement. We just talked about that, right? We know that businesses are stakeholders and they truly drive change in communities. So we really want this conversation to be about businesses really understanding the importance of, business and health. Why, as a small business owner, health should be important to you, right? And so we're going to be talking about some of the other determinants throughout the next few weeks. Prepare, plan, and respond, right? And we don't want you to do that alone. There's resources within, the CDC, the health department, within your municipality, and we want you to be able to prepare, plan, and respond. We know when COVID-19 first came in the US back in March, it was so unexpected. But there's a lot of more information that we have now and a lot of more resources that we're happy to share with all of you. So another takeaway is improving the health of communities and individuals is important to core business objectives. This is kind of speaking to when we think about corporate social responsibility or just a social responsibility, right? Being able to have some type of impact in the community that you're surrounded in is a part of your business objectives, right? Earlier, we talked about how, consumers, customers, they really want to do business with companies, businesses that are doing some sort of a social good. So it's amazing that during these difficult times, we're seeing small businesses show up and still doing good within their communities. And lastly, get creative. There's different ways that you can reach customers. And so this might be an opportunity for you to look at different markets or different services or products. And we encourage you to get creative. Don't do this alone. There's a community of small businesses and resources that you have. Okay. Next slide.
Yes. So Sheyla, why don't you introduce us to Ms. Busato?
Sure. Thank you so much for that, Malaika. So we talked a lot about tips for small businesses. We heard about the amazing work happening at the Allapattah Collaborative through Stay Healthy. And so we want to hear from Catherine Busato, who's our health expert, about just kind of what's some information you can share with small business owners through these difficult times.
So, hi everyone, my name is Kat Busato. Nice to be here with all of you. So some things to keep in mind, make sure we have flyers that we can provide you guys to have signage, at least in your businesses. that say, you know, mask required, a 6 feet distance. And I think that having that inside your business and outside of the door of the business is a good way to keep people informed. I know everybody probably knows about masking and social distancing by now, but it's still good to enforce it. Another thing that you should keep in mind when you're disinfecting your areas after the workplace, make sure that it's an EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency. They have a list of disinfectants that actually kill COVID-19, and make sure you're using one that is for COVID-19 that kills it. So there's a list that we can also send to you guys. It's a link, and that's really important. Another thing to keep in mind that I've noticed not everyone's aware of is to make sure your hand sanitizers have at least 60% alcohol in it, because if it has any less, it's not going to kill coronavirus. So that's another thing to keep in mind. As for quarantine, so if someone is already positive and they've gotten tested, they should be quarantined for 10 days and make sure that they don't go back to work unless their fever has been gone for at least a day without any, you know, Advil, Tylenol. So that's something to keep in mind. But if someone you think has been exposed, if they think that they've been exposed, they should be quarantined for 14 days due to the COVID-19 virus is not going to show symptoms until maybe a week after, you know, because of the incubation period of the virus. So that's why the quarantine is a little longer for those patients that have a potential exposure. As for testing, something that I want to keep in mind, Shirley actually mentioned that frequent testing is important, and it's true. So for people that don't have any symptoms, but you have the in and out of people and customers and people interacting all the time, I think the rapid antigen testing is very easy and quick, and you get results within a few hours. The caveat I have for you guys is if the person has symptoms, please, please, please get the PCR testing, which is the viral testing, and you do it through the nose or it's oral. I think it depends on which testing site you go to, but if you do have symptoms, you should be getting the viral test, the PCR test, which is the most accurate test of all of them.
Thank you, Kat.
That's the one that you wait like 3 days to get it, right? That's the one that the one that we get, you wait 3 days. Okay, so there's not a test.
Yeah, that one is a little longer.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not the rapid test that you say, okay, let me do the test. I'll know in X amount of time within a day, or I think it's 15-20 minutes.
Yeah, so that one is the antigen testing. So that, you know, it's good for when you, like Shirley said, is if you have to test like your employees, if you want to test them at least once a week, that one's easy. And if they're not having symptoms, easy, fast, you get results very quickly within a few hours, is what I've noticed with some patients. But the one that I'm talking about, if they have symptoms like fever, cough, shortness of breath, and the other symptoms like loss of taste, loss of smell, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, all these things, if they have any of those symptoms, they should be getting the viral test, which is the one that does take a few days to come back.
And if I might add to that, there are a lot of places, locations, and resources where you can get tested for free. It won't charge your insurance, and you won't have to pay out of pocket. All you have to do is look up the Miami-Dade website for COVID testing, and they'll give you a list of locations where you can do walk-in, where you could do a drive up, or you can even schedule an appointment. Anything from a CVS pharmacy location to a Walgreens, or if you're in Allapattah, Marlins Park as well.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Shirley, for that information. And I'd also like to thank everyone who's tuning in to this conversation. We're so happy to have you all joining. Thank you, Vanya, for joining this conversation. We appreciate your kind words that this is very informative. So, Malaika, what do you think? Do we want to go into asking some questions?
Yes, sure. I mean, I have a tons of questions for the both of them, but we can start with your question, Sheyla.
Hold on one sec. Okay. And so the question that I had in mind, and the information that we're giving is very informative because Shirley kind of answered it. I kind of jotted it down earlier, which was if I'm a small business owner, like, where can I send employees to get tested, which was answered, right? And is there, I guess, through, the city, or like, is there any additional resources in terms of kits or anything that the city is providing directly? Is there any resources that maybe small businesses through like the city of Miami that they can find as well?
I'm not aware of anything right now. I am aware of nonprofits like Live Healthy Little
Yeah.
Havana, the Allapattah Collaborative, who are actually that have they're doing work along small businesses and COVID, and making sure that people are safe. Um, but what the one question I did have is, this public discourse, because one of the challenges that Shirley mentioned earlier is that we are coming into the businesses and providing them with many things, because aside from COVID being a damper on your day-to-day business, it's also a damper on your pockets. Now they have to buy new cleaning supplies that have specific, designations. They have to buy more sanitizers that many businesses didn't have before. Now they have to buy the stickers on the floor to measure the 6 feet distance. Where does this money come from? And is there anything else? Because I know that we are helping businesses with that, but I don't know if there's like any other resources, Kat, that you may know about, that businesses can go to. And then um, the other thing aside from that is like some businesses don't even want to go, that far anymore, because we are like opening a phase 3 and we're acting like this is not still happening.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
Agreed.
as for small business, I'm trying to think of resources for, I think they have like special loans right now for small business owners. I'm not sure if Sheyla, you know of those a little more deeply than I do, I think.
Sure. Yeah. So with the business loans through the U.S. Small Business Administration, there was resource efforts given to small businesses, or businesses in general, to kind of help mitigate the losses during COVID-19. So wages for like employees, to be able to pay your employees, loss of profits. So we really encourage businesses to look at the U.S. Small Business Administration's website to see what resources are available. Because they vary. There's some based on like the size of the business, your location, but that website really gives good information on either guidance or loan resources. But there are resources available for businesses as well. We've also seen efforts from in the example I'm about to give is it's in Miami-Dade County, but the universities as well. We've seen whether it's like the School of Hospitalities, here at at University of Miami, Florida International University, really the college, Miami-Dade College, coming together to provide support for small businesses. So we're seeing it from government, we're seeing it from the public sector, we're also seeing resources from the private sector as well.
Yes, I can mention, now that I remember, that there's something called the Miami Rise Fund, and it's a Miami-Dade County loan for small businesses. Now they have their eligibility. You need to find out if you actually are able to apply, if they'll consider your business. But that is a several $1 million fund that this Miami-Dade County has. And then there's also another one that I learned about, and definitely you can email us at info@allapattahcdc.org, or find us on our social media to get more information. You can go to our website, allapattahcdc.org, and we can definitely connect you with all those resources. There's a loan or assistance called the Aversion Fund, and it's like if you keep all your receipts of all the sanitizer and all the face mask and anything that you spend because of COVID, like new materials and supplies that you buy for your business, they would actually reimburse you much of that. But you can definitely communicate with our offices and we can help you further on that. So Sheyla, we were also going to talk about the public discourse, but then I don't know if you had any other questions before we jump onto that.
No, you can proceed. Thanks. We can talk about that.
So yeah, I wanted, if you guys can weigh in on this as far as like the public discourse, the fact that small businesses and many people, yes, we do have something called COVID fatigue. That is definitely, we're all living it. We're all very tired of being camped up and working from home, or, what else can we do to make sure that people understand that this is not over? Catherine, Shirley, Sheyla, any of you?
Sure. So I think what your question is speaking to is kind of like, so yes, we've all COVID-19 fatigue. We're getting different information, listening to public officials, politics. And I think what's really important in this is really listening to the health officials and the guidance being set there. We also see that different cities and even municipalities as well have different guidelines that they have set for their residents. So we know it's easy to get COVID fatigue. I'd say to anybody out there listening, you're not alone, but listen to your health officials. And if we do that, we're able to get through this together and be able to, do things like this where we're sharing, we're getting together, we're having a conversation about, the information that we know and how we'd like to share it with you. So I would say, listen to health officials, talk to, communication. So talking to people who are able to share resources and information to help us get it through this.
Definitely. So we have a question from the audience asking, how confident are you with the rapid test results?
So the accuracy of the rapid testing is like 84 to 92, I believe. So it's pretty accurate, but the viral testing that I was talking about, that's PCR, not the antigen, is like 99 point something % accurate. So there is a little dip in accuracy with the rapid testing. But if you're asymptomatic and you're testing, your employees, it's the easiest one because it's the quickest, and that's why I mentioned that one because it is accurate and it comes back pretty fast and within like 3 hours.
Awesome.
And it is sometimes recommended that if for some reason you know that you've interacted with someone with COVID and you've taken the test, come out negative, it's okay for you to come back maybe 2-3 days after you've taken the first test and retake the test, right? To make sure you are absolutely negative.
Yes. So Shirley, can you share with us, like, you go into these businesses, you train them. What do you train them about? What is it that you want them to tell their clients? Because we have two challenges here. Number one, how do small businesses, and I guess this is two questions. One is for Shirley, the one is for the rest of you. One question is, how do you get the small businesses to make sure that the employees and their families are getting tested? How do we do that? How do we ensure that happens?
That speaks a lot to, say, that public sentiment that at least I myself walk into. It feels like a sense of we've moved on to phase 3, so it just means that COVID is going away. And that's unfortunately not the case. Cases are going back up, just like they went back up in the summer. Right? So just yesterday, I can give you the number. We have been up by 4,865 cases.
Wow, in the state. That's a lot.
Right? So it's that idea that it's not over, unfortunately. So what can we do about it? You asked, what am I bringing into these businesses? What am I educating and informing them about? Well, from the very beginning, one of the first things I explained to them is, unfortunately, we're dealing with COVID, but we're also dealing with flu season now. And COVID-19 and the flu share a lot of the same symptoms, right? So at the end of the day, if you do happen to come about, say, some of the symptoms, doesn't matter if it's the flu or COVID-19, go get tested, go isolate yourself, right? It's all about uno nunca sabe. One never knows. So it's best to be safe than be sorry.
Great advice.
well.
Great advice. Continue. Go ahead, please. I'm just sharing that is amazing advice because I feel that people are like sometimes a little careless with this, and you never know. Maybe you're not gonna have a big implication with COVID, but we don't know who else you can give it to as an asymptomatic. So that's something that we'll always need to be thinking about.
And at the end of the day, one of the biggest problems with COVID is how easily it is transmitted. And also that time span where somebody can transmit COVID-19 as well. So it ranges anywhere from, I believe, 2 days after infection to 14 days. That's 2 weeks where you could be interacting with someone and not know that you're passing this virus on. And yes, the public discourse is that, well, the effects of COVID are not that bad. It's like catching the flu and you get better. At the end of the day, COVID affects everybody differently, right? That's a fact. And you never know if it's your body or those closest to you who will be hit by COVID a lot stronger than what was expected. So why take that risk? Where there are resources and information and guidelines and rules out there that are meant to protect you, your family, and those who cannot protect themselves. Anybody who is immunocompromised, anybody that has some of the factors that increases their chance of complications. Right? And even talking about complications, there's a list of complications for people who have recovered from COVID, anywhere from complications in the heart, in the lungs, of course, it's a respiratory disease, in the brain, and you can even get un derrame, basically blood clots, right? So who's to say that in a few months or a few years, because you contracted COVID-19, you end up with a blood clot, right? So it's putting that into perspective that you have to protect yourself from COVID-19 and also the complications that may come after as well.
Yeah, so unfortunately, everyone thinks this virus is cold, a flu-like thing, but it's a way more than that. It can cause strokes and can cause heart attacks. It can cause, clots in your leg. So those are not things you can play around with. Those are long-term things that are devastating for families and the patient themselves. So you have to think about that too. It's not just a simple upper respiratory infection. There's people that have no comorbidities at all that don't do well. And there's people, like you said, it varies from person to person. We don't know why it's like that. But, some of the comorbidities that can obviously affect this a little worse are if you have hypertension, diabetes, obesity, asthma, if you have, cancer, if you're immunocompromised, if you have lupus or something like that. So those things are important to keep in mind, but it isn't like the flu. But it's crazy because they are very similar in the way they manifest. So you have to, if you have those symptoms, you have to get tested for COVID. And if it's not COVID, it might be the flu. It might be just the common cold.
Yeah. There we go. Oh, Malaika, you're muted. Malaika, you're muted.
You're muted, but I know what you're saying. So you're reading a question from When I saw that question, as someone who's truly passionate about social responsibility and community engagement, I got excited. So how can small businesses engage in the community? Excellent question. I think what's really important, a good place to start, is to see what's going on in your community. What are some of the needs that are happening? And I'll tell you some ways that you can find that out. Most community-based organizations, not-for-profit, get together through monthly meetings. And so you can attend one of those meetings. They're open for all stakeholders of a community. And as a business owner, you're a part of that group. You are a stakeholder. And through those meetings, you can hear about, what are some of the challenges happening in the community. You can even call up your local nonprofit. Let's say you don't have time to go out to a meeting, and just schedule a phone call or a Zoom call and hear about some of the community needs, because this can kind of help you see where, based on your skills and your services, you can best provide support. Another way is to volunteer. Maybe there's a local soccer game. Maybe there's something happening in the community. And so on behalf of your small business, you go out and your employees, you can volunteer. Speaking of employees, you can use that as an opportunity for, like, most businesses, companies, organizations have like a team building activity that they do throughout the year. So your next team building activity, you can use that to volunteer at a local organization or shelter, right? So you're doing your team building and your employees, you're getting to know each other some more, doing some really fun stuff, but you're also giving back to your local community. Some other examples may be volunteering on a community board. A lot of times not-for-profits are looking for that too, someone in the community who can volunteer on a board. You can also donate. You can also have like a discount, or sometimes businesses do that where certain days of the week they offer some items. One of the things you can do is also hire from the community, right? People being able to see, people who look like them working at the local, barber shop or coffee shop, hire within your community. I would also say another way is, I think I mentioned sponsorship with organizations. And so those are some examples of what you can do to engage with your community as a small business. And don't just take my word for it. You can look at the research out there. Businesses thrive and they do better when there's when they're giving back to their community. Not just small businesses, but we see that with larger companies. If you think about Nike, for example, we see the work that they're doing in the social justice space. And so they've been able to have a social mission, but that also really, they did well in terms of like making a profit from it, right? Which is what we're talking about. You can have a profit, but we can also tie it into having a purpose as well.
Yes. I think that another thing on that question, which I think was perfectly built for what you said and also what Shirley is doing, because one of the ways that the small businesses are engaging the community is by giving them number one, giving them a safety kit through the Stay Healthy Allapattah program. We provide the small businesses with the safety kits that they give to their clients. So you come in and they give you a safety kit. They then write an engagement slip, and we follow up with them to make sure that they did get tested. And while they're interacting, they're sharing the correct information about COVID. So Shirley is doing a fabulous job making sure that small businesses become ambassador for correct information, and to really ask and engage other people and encourage other people to get tested.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
So if I might add, within these safety kits included is everything from 3 different kinds of face masks that they can use, a hand sanitizer, even a list of all the closest testing sites and resources available to those living in Allapattah. So once more, you can get tested, walk up, drive up, or there's even resources now where the individuals will come to your house instead. So you won't have to leave your space, they come to you.
Thank you, Shirley.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I just wanted to add, when we think about some of the pressing issues that we see in society, right, and as a society, climate change, social injustice, housing affordability, sometimes we think that, government is just the group that's supposed to fix this, right? And we do know that government should be involved in there's certain programs, but really it's also the businesses, the corporations that exist in these communities to really be at the forefront of the change. And so it's unfortunate that it took a situation like COVID-19, but we're really starting to see how businesses are a part of being able to drive changes that we see within the community. It's grassroots. That's the direction we should go.
Yes.
And so I'd like to also check in with Kat and Sherly to see if you have any final remarks to share with our small businesses and our audience.
Sherly, you can go first.
No problem. So if it comes from personal experience, I feel when we approach the topic of COVID-19, it's important to come from a personal perspective. Because if you talk to your friend, to your neighbor, there's always someone who knows of another who contracted COVID-19 and is feeling the effects, right? So it's not as impersonal as you may have thought. It will most likely be a lot more personable than you think. And for that reason, it's important to think of yourself, of others as well. Because in the end, we're all in this together. And if everybody's doing their part, then hopefully we'll get through it a lot faster than if we're all just not following the recommendations, right?
Totally true.
Up to you, Catherine.
So I'm going to jump on the bandwagon there of, following rules and regulations. So I saw a study saying that if we enforce masking completely, the numbers drop drastically throughout, like for the projection. So that's something that we need to continue to do in our small businesses and with our customers, and make sure that there's masks, because they do prevent the spread of COVID. And that's something that we really need to focus on. And like you said, it's not just protecting yourself, it's protecting those around you. You don't know if, if you're an asymptomatic person that's spreading COVID, if you're wearing a mask and the other person's wearing a mask, there's a less likely chance of transmission. So wearing a mask is very important, because you don't know who you might be interacting with that has to go home to abuela, abuelo, and they're older, so they're more at risk for like serious complications for COVID. So you have to keep a perspective of, I would say, like a perspective of empathy. Think about those around you, not just yourself. This is something that we need to do together. It's you have to be empathetic to those around you. You don't know who's going to go home to maybe a child with asthma or a child with cancer. You really need to think about the perspective of the other people. Put yourself into their shoes and see how, if they had COVID and they brought it home, how would that affect their life? So we need to keep that in mind, I think, is be a little more caring to those around you. The golden rule, do unto others,
Agreed, Kat. We are all in this together. And I definitely want to thank you both for adding so much value and important information on this conversation. And so to take our conversations and ideas from this series to the next step, I'd love for our small business owners out there to join me in designing a social responsibility action plan just for you. So you heard during this conversation about the benefits, not only to your business, but to the community, about having some type of social responsibility plan, right, that addresses the social determinants of health. And so this plan will be tailored for your specific business, your customers, and your stakeholder. And so it'll include developing a vision or strategy and a tangible plan that can drive your competitive edge. So this is going to be a space where we're going to get together and we're going to design a social responsibility plan for you. So we're going to go into detail about your customer, your business. And so we want to make it super specific to you. Okay. And so this will take place on Monday, December 7th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. via the Zoom platform. Okay. And so we have placed the registration link on the chat box for your convenience. And so you'll also get more information about this to come. Thank you, Malaika.
No, thank you. I'm looking forward to that. I'll definitely be there, Sheyla. I want to thank you for for being here with us, and also our panelists for joining us today. I hope this conversation allowed us to understand and appreciate more deeply the impacts and health implications of COVID-19 in our small businesses. We want to thank the Health Foundation, the Miami Foundation, SocialBridge Consulting for making this event possible. I encourage you to keep connecting beyond this event. Let this be the introduction to continue the conversation with your colleagues, your employees, your clients, your family, friends, about how to take care of each other during this crisis. I encourage you to please, please, please protect yourself, protect your employees, protect your clients from COVID-19. Take the test several times if needed, and have everyone in your business get tested. Tomorrow is election day. Exercise your right to vote if you haven't done so already, and visit our website, allapattahcdc.org, for more information and resources for your small business. Thank you very much, and good night.
Nice.
Bye, everyone.